especially as a kid that grew up playing NCAA and grew up playing Madden. It's very cool, but I also know that the game updates and everything is subject to change, so we've got to earn those ratings as the game progresses.
So is the goal to get to a 99?
Well, sure, you could say that.
Yeah. I guess being in the Big Ten now, not in video games, but in real life, how much of a difference does that make, if any? Have you thought about it much, just being in a new conference?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, it definitely feels more real, especially now that we're here today in Indianapolis, seeing these other teams. Obviously all the logos, all the head coaches, whatever it is. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously something we've acknowledged and addressed and looking forward to moving forward.
Jonah, just in general, does it feel like there's a lot of new conference, new quarterback, new defense, new defensive coordinator? How has that felt just kind of coming into this season?
Yeah, there's certainly a lot of change, as you just mentioned, but I think every year is a very different feeling. It's a very different team with very different circumstances, and you never know what's going to come your way. You never know what adversity is going to strike, but with all those changes, you just got to keep adapting. Keep believing, keep adapting, and always trying to put your best foot forward.
With Miller, I know it's not like he's a new person to you, but what have you seen as he has stepped into that new role? What have you seen this summer, especially, that's impressed you from him?
Yeah, he's really grasped that role as a leader. Obviously, being a quarterback, being the leader of an offense and the leader of a team. He's done a great job, stepping up and embracing that role and letting himself shine through. He's an extremely confident, poised person, and him shining that onto all of us as teammates is a great thing.
How's it feel being in the position that Justin was in last year? Maybe guys before you, now you're the elder statesman on the line. And how's the group been this offseason?
It's been good. Obviously, with that role comes a lot of responsibility. Just always trying to lead my guys and do my part, knowing that a lot of other guys depend on me. But I mean, at the end of the day, that's what football is. It's all 11 guys being on the same page and executing at the end of the day. So, yeah, it's been good up to this point.
In regards to the rating, your running back Joyner has a strength of 93. How did you react when you saw that?
Does he really?
Being in lineman, the running back has a higher strength rating than most of the whole team.
That's hilarious. I'll have to say something to Q about that. That's funny. I'm surprised that's a 93, but great for Q. That's awesome.
Jonah, despite the staff adjustments, how are you guys preparing differently this year during PRPs, knowing you're coming into the big conference this year?
Yeah. Obviously, preparation, the more you get into season gets very game plan specific. Right now it's maybe a little more broad, maybe a little more general in terms of going into an entire new conference. But at the end of the day, we're just controlling what we can control, focusing on what we can focus. And sure, in preparation, you talk about, different teams, different schemes, different body types that are now in the Big Ten that we now will play. And that definitely comes up across those things. But, especially in the off season, it's just being the best that we can be at controlling what we can control.
How much of the body type? How much of the body type discussion has been going on during the offseason?
Yeah, a lot. I mean, just looking at where we were last year, and obviously where we need to be in the Big Ten, and whatever it is. Just as an O-line, there's been a big emphasis made on gaining weight from our strength staff and our nutrition staff, and I think we've done a good job as a collective of adding some muscle, adding some pounds behind us.
Jonah, what did you think about your player rating?
I thought it was very cool, especially someone that grew up playing NCAA and grew up playing Madden. But I also know that everything is subject to change with updates, throughout the season. So we've got to earn those ratings, whatever they are.
A couple of Big Ten guys have been saying, "Oh, these new West Coast schools, they're used to the sun. They're not going to be able to play in the cold. They're not going to be able to build this gritty, grimy Big Ten football run game." Why do you think that perception exists?
Yeah, I think that's just kind of the stereotypical California, SoCal, LA, stereotype, and it is what it is. It's a stereotype.
Why is it wrong?
It's wrong because at the end of the day, we all got to play the same game on the same field, regardless of where it is or what the weather's like or anything like that. And obviously, whether it's raining, snowing, in a dome, sunny out, we'll be there ready to play on any given day.
How are you guys going to fix that run defense from last year?
Yeah, obviously at the end of the day, any perceptions about us as a team come from the product that we put on the field on Saturdays. So whether it's something about the offense or something about the defense, at the end of the day, the only way to change the perception is by changing the product on a Saturday.
John, there's a whole X's and O's component to this move to the Big Ten, but are you curious about new stadiums or new fan bases that you're gonna encounter?
Yeah, I think that's one of the best parts about this entire move. Obviously, like you said, it's an economic move. There's a lot of X's and O behind it, but for us, we're going to be exposed to a lot of new venues, new fan bases, new teams, and I think that's great. It's great for us. It's great for the teams involved, the conference as a whole, and it's definitely great for the sport in general.
Jonah, can you shed some light on some of the first and second year offensive linemen? Who have you taken under your wing? Who's impressed you from that group? Who are some young guys who maybe USC fans don't know a lot about who might have a role this year or in the future?
Yeah, especially talking up front, we saw snaps of Elijah Page in the Holiday Bowl. He got here a year and a half ago as an early enrollee freshman, and he's done a great job from day one, just attacking everything and asking questions and always trying to learn and get better. And he's a young guy, but he's got a lot of talent. He's got a lot of potential. So, looking forward to seeing him out there. And then, a lot of guys that came in his class and around his age, Milani Noah, Amos Talalele, those guys are talented. They've got a lot of ability. We just got to harness all of that and get it all on the field as a product.
Who's impressed you the most at right guard this spring so far?
Yeah, I think honestly, I wouldn't even have an answer for you about who's impressed me the most. Each guy in our interior with the ones and twos has different set of strengths and weaknesses. And some of those highs are pretty high. Some of those strengths are pretty solid. But, at the end of the day, O-line play is about being as consistent as you can over and over and over and being as accountable as you can. So, really, I think that'll be the deciding factor.
Lincoln said Gino is going to be full go at the beginning of camp. Has he been full go lately? Have you had to play and work out with him anytime soon, or is that still on the horizon?
Yeah, obviously, we don't discuss too much about, depth chart and injuries and whatever it is, but yeah, Gino's been looking good this offseason and, excited to go into camp with him.
The Big Ten is known as a physical conference. Do you take that as a challenge going into the new league?
Yeah, there's always, challenges and whatever there is with any opponent, regardless of conference or where they're from or what team, what logo they wear. There's always challenges, but that's certainly something that the Big Ten is known for and something that we acknowledge and embrace and look forward to competing against.
Do you think that people don't give you guys enough credit, West Coast teams?
Like I said earlier, there's always a stereotype about West Coast teams, especially about teams from LA, teams in Southern California. But like I said, at the end of the day, the only way to change perceptions is by changing the product that's on the field on Saturdays and proving people how you want to be defined.
Can you talk about the difference between blocking for a quarterback like Caleb Williams, who can keep a play alive for extended periods of time, and Miller Moss? How much more difficult is it blocking for Caleb Williams compared to Miller Moss?
Yeah. Those are obviously two, gifted quarterbacks that, have different strengths and weaknesses and different play styles and different preferences. And as an offensive lineman, there might be some differences between the two, but at the end of the day, our job doesn't change a whole lot in terms of the play we're running, what we're trying to execute. We're always trying to block the best we can for as long as we can, regardless of who's at quarterback, what type of routes the receivers are running, anything along those lines. So there are some changes, but I would say, anything that goes into changing our jobs.
So they usually take. Do you know where Purdue is?
Yeah.
You know where Purdue is located?
Yeah.
Where is it?
Lafayette.
Okay. I wasn't sure if everybody from out on the West Coast would know that. Is this your first time here in Indiana?
No, I've been in Indiana, but this is my first time in Indianapolis.
Okay. Where'd you come to Indiana for?
Notre Dame.
Oh, okay, yeah, that makes sense. You guys are probably more acquainted with the Big Ten mentality, right?
A little bit.
How do you feel about, or maybe a better question, how does maybe your extended family feel about all the trips you guys are going to have to take out here to this part of the country?
Yeah, I think there's obviously pros and cons to it. Pros are kind of what I touched on earlier, we get to experience a lot of great atmospheres and great venues and great fan bases because of this move. At the same time, they obviously have cons of, there's going to be more travel, it's going to be a little more expensive, going to take a little longer, be a little harder. But at the end of the day, that's, what you give for what you get.
You like putting on a tie?
It's not my first choice, but I don't hate it.
As you've had some time to reflect on last season, what lessons did you learn that you can apply to this year?
Yeah, I think, the biggest takeaway I have from last year is just about all the details and all the little things and all the relationships that it takes to be a good football team on Saturdays. We had a very talented team last year, and ultimately we still didn't get the product that we wanted. And looking back on it, that's got to be a result of a lack of something else. Obviously, just we weren't a good enough team as a whole. We didn't execute enough. We didn't execute well enough. And yeah, so just like knowing that at the end of the day, all those little details, we've got to hold those, at the utmost of importance, and get those things ironed out and really just come together as a team and play as a cohesive unit.
Defensive ends went up against last season, Oregon and Jordan Birch. Just what makes him a challenging defensive end to go up against? What makes him unique compared to some other guys?
Yeah, first thing that stands out about Jordan is his size. Right, he's extremely large. He's very strong. He's got good length. He's a really big DN. At this level, so those are definitely his strengths. I would say his size, his length, his strength. He's a smart player. He's got good instincts and things like that.
When a lot of the conjecture and talk around here, the Big Ten is these four West Coast schools are coming in is about line of scrimmage play and about are they ready for the Big Ten version of football as an offensive tackle, as somebody who's played against the likes of him. Do you think that's a little overblown by somebody, for those who are in the Big Ten, about like line of scrimmage league and 3 yards in a cloud of dust, the way they play versus like the West Coast, their perception of the West Coast is, again, as a tackle, the guy who goes up against the likes of who was at Washington last year, the likes of who's been in Oregon, exactly what the line of scrimmage look like in the Pac-12.
Yeah, I mean, I think at times that is the case, that it gets a little more talked about than really is reality. But again, at the same time, they also have, there's a lot of teams in the Big Ten that play a lot of, 12, 11, 13, 22 personnel in, you go watch a majority of our games, a majority of Pac-12 games, you might see way more 10 personnel, way more 11 personnel. So I know that also ties in with that perception about, big boy football and physicality and things of that nature.
Jonah, I know Coach Lynn has talked about the need to get bigger on the defensive line, and maybe that just had to happen regardless of the league. But offensively, like kind of along those lines, was there a directive for you guys, or are they kind of okay with body composition and where you guys are at right now?
Yeah, there was a big emphasis made by our strength staff and our nutrition staff, Coach Wiley and our position coaches as well, just up front, gaining weight, being as big as we can, adding as much muscle as we can while still staying, athletic and flexible and whatever have you. But yeah, I mean, that's definitely a point of emphasis, something that we've acknowledged and something that we hope to address moving forward.
Who've made the biggest gains that you've seen, and anything that's kind of jumped out in the group?
Yeah, it's tough to say because, there's always freshmen that may come in at around 250, and then 6 months later you look at them and, they're over 300 pounds. So you always see young guys make huge jumps, which is always great to see. But I mean, even older guys and myself and whatever it has, I'm proud of the gains that we've made and hope to continue growing in that area.
What are some of those that you made, or where did you want to get to in the off season, and kind of are you where you want to be?
Yeah, I mean, by the start of fall camp, I want to be around 310 pounds, which is, a significant jump for me. That's 15 to 20 pounds heavier than what I played at last year. So, yeah.
And how much of that is the league? How much of that is just needed to happen?
I'd say it's both. I mean, I've been a guy that's needed to be a weight gain guy my entire career. I've always needed to be heavier than I was. I've always played, lighter and pretty underweight for being an offensive lineman. But, I think that's something that would have needed to happen regardless of conference as an individual, and then it just gets amplified with the conference change.
How much are you checking in with the other guys in terms of how they're doing, the older guys, in terms of their progression, where they want to get to, goals and all that?
I mean, we've got daily weigh-ins where, we all know what we're at. We know what our weight ranges are at, and whether our weight ranges are changing and going up, maintaining, whatever it is. So we all get a good idea when, weigh-in starts and we all step on the scale.
You mentioning not wanting to lose the athleticism. How do you know that, or how do you balance that out so that you gain something but don't lose something?
I think it's tough because in some stance. It's got to be a feel thing. You've got to feel it, especially as someone that's played a decent amount of games and got a good amount of reps. Kind of understanding how my body works and how I move as an offensive lineman and how I feel. It's like I've got to still feel like that, but at the same time, I don't know as much as my coaches know. My coaches have seen way more players than I can imagine, and they've developed way more bodies than I've ever seen. So, I've got to just trust what they say at the end of the day. But they always lead us right.
As someone who obviously wants to play in the NFL, how will it benefit you to have played in the Pac and now playing a year in the Big Ten?
Yeah, I think it's just even more, exposure to different players with different talents, different schemes, different coaching staffs, different venues. I think it's just an even broader exposure and even more experience that, at the end of the day just helps.
I know they're not the first game, but have you looked at a defensive front like Michigan and what you guys could prepare to see with those guys?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, like you said, they're not our first game, but, I've seen stuff of them here and there, and they certainly had a great defense last year. A lot of guys returning, real talented team, obviously good scheme. So, yeah, that's certainly a challenge moving forward.
How good the different venues. You get a team like Northwestern, I'm going to have a game at Wrigley Field this year. I mean, has there ever been a stadium that you haven't played in yet that you think would be really cool to have a chance in? It could be football or non-football?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think that's really cool, especially I grew up, I was a big baseball player growing up, so like them getting to play at Wrigley is like a super cool thing. And then we're sitting today here inside of Lucas Oil, like this is a beautiful stadium like that I've never seen before until today. So I don't even know if I could pinpoint one for you. Just, yeah, so many good venues and so many cool places that I think will all be great to see.
How good is Woody Marks? What can USC fans expect from him?
Yeah, Woody's a very talented back. He's smart. You can definitely tell that he's got some experience to him. He's a veteran. He's a hard worker. He's a good guy to be around and a good teammate. I'm excited to take the field with him this fall.
Hi, Joe.
Hello.
I'd like to be 310 by the start of camp, too.
Yes, sir.
I'm from Chicago. I want to ask you about Caleb.
Yeah.
You've probably been asked about him a time or two in your life. What can you say about him as a teammate?
Yeah. I'd say from day one, Caleb was a great teammate. He established himself as a great leader by earning the trust and respect of his teammates, back when he transferred in from Oklahoma. Yeah, I'd say he's a great teammate. Obviously, he's an extremely talented individual, extremely talented athlete, but he also has a great work ethic. And I think on top of both of those things, what really separates him is he is incredibly confident and incredibly determined to do the things he wants to do. He's very competitive, obviously. A lot of people have seen that, both the good and the bad. The camera is always on him, but at the end of the day, it's extreme passion and extreme competitive fire that drives him, and I can't say enough good things about him.
What do you think it is that leads people, some people, not all people obviously, but to see somebody who stands out for whatever reasons beyond his play, and they get a little wary about it?
Yeah.
Why do you think that is? Is stuff just being lost in translation, basically misread? What do you think?
I think at times, things can definitely be misread or misinterpreted, or certainly, as his teammate over the past couple years, there's rumors you hear from other people that you look at in the building and you go, well, that's not true at all. So there's certainly some rumors and some misinterpretations about him. And, whatever it is, he's very true to himself. He's very authentic. And, with authenticity, some people like it, some people don't. I think he's pretty true to himself at all times. And, whatever it is, obviously, people don't always like things he does or things he says or whatever, but I think he's just authentic, and that kind of comes with it.
You think it was a good experience for you guys to get to play the bowl game without him, and also just kind of, I don't know, affirming or empowering, to do it? You got one player who gets all the right, who's great, and then you go play without him, and it seems like you guys enjoyed that. What kind of opportunity was it? How important was it?
Yeah, I mean, every time we take the field, it's a great opportunity, regardless of, who's at quarterback, who's at center, who's at receiver, whatever it may be. And I think the product of that bowl game was us having a month from the end of season to the Holiday Bowl to just grow and to just build as a team. You know, we didn't finish that season the way we wanted to, and then we had some time to look at it, reflect, make some adjustments, grow as a team, come together a little bit, and then I think that's the product that you saw. I don't think it necessarily had to do with the fact that you know, he wasn't playing and Miller was playing, although Miller did a great job that game. But I think it was more of a team thing and a program thing as a whole.
Last thing for me, is there you have a Caleb story that readers in Chicago might enjoy? Can you think of anything?
Yeah, I mean, I've got a lot of times and a lot of stories I could say, but kind of just what I touched on earlier. He's a very authentic person, and he's a very, you know, generous person. He was a great teammate. You know, when he took us to the Heisman ceremony, you know, he took us 8 O-linemen to the Heisman ceremony. That was all him. That was something he wanted to do. That was something he asked for. You know, that wasn't anything else. He was just like, if I'm going there, I want my guys with me, and that's all it was. And it was a super cool experience. Obviously, you know, he won arguably the best award in college football, and we got to just kind of join along with him for that experience. And that was awesome, and he was super cool for, you know, letting us come to that event with him and enjoy that whole weekend with him. So I think that just kind of is a small sample of just kind of how he is as a person and as a teammate.
If you all went, everybody, the whole group?
It was 8 of us. It was the 8 guys that had started for him that year.
Okay, I assume not everybody, if everybody went, must like him, right?
Yeah, I mean, yeah, of course.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
A lot of new matchups this year in the Big Ten. What do you know about Michigan? Are you excited to play in the Big House this fall?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's a great venue, just as many other, you know, stadiums and fan bases are in the Big Ten that we now get to experience and become exposed to. And as you said with Michigan, you know, they are a great team with a great defense. You know, obviously they've had some coaching changes, but they're still a great team with a great roster, a lot of returning key players, and you know, that's certainly a great team that.
Those new matchups, you have Nebraska coming into town. Do you think you can name any similarities between Lincoln, Nebraska, and Los Angeles, California?
Given that I've never been to Lincoln, Nebraska, I don't want to go out and take any guesses. But I am looking forward to having them out in the Coliseum this fall.
What's up, man?
What's up?
How are you? Have you focused at all on this NLRB lawsuit that would make you unemployed?
I haven't, to be honest.
Do you know about it?
Not in depth at all, very much.
Do you think you'd want to be classified as an employee? Like, have to work 40 hours for USC or anything like that?
I mean, I prefer to talk more about football, to be honest with you. Like, you know, I just don't know all the implications that come with that case and what you're talking about and all the differences between being an employee and being a student athlete and whatever it is. So I just don't want to misspeak and say something that I don't fully grasp as of right now.
Are you excited to go to Vegas?
Yeah, that's a pretty special game, pretty special opponent, you know, and a really cool environment.
Awesome. Thanks, man.
Thank you, man.